Good morning, Morai Rabotai, Bruchim Abayim. We are continuing on Masechet Succah, and we are on Daf Mem, Amud Aleph, 11 lines down from the top of the Amud. Today's Amud is being learned as a Zchud Refuah Shelema for Rachel Simcha Bat Nahid, Michael Ben Nahid, Esther Bracha Bat Chaya, Avraham Jamshit Ben Tajgol, that you all have a full recovery Refuah Shelema Bezat Hashem Amen. His Amud is also being sponsored by the Dayan family, Kohen family, Shei family. Should be an ultimate zchut for all of their mishpachot, Be'ezrat Hashem, Amen. So we are continuing on the discussion we started for Etrog Av Shvi'it versus the Lulav, Hadas, and Arava of Shvi'it. So we said, if you want to buy a set on Shnat HaShemitah, you can't pay for the Etrog. But you could do havla'ah, you could pay more for the rest of the arba minim, for the other three species, and cover in it the money you would have paid for an etrog. Why? Because you can't benefit from the money of shvi'it in every way you want. And when you're dealing with an amaretz, dealing with an ignorant layman, you can't trust them necessarily that they're going to be careful with kedushat shvi'it. They're not necessarily learned, they're not necessarily careful, and therefore if he keeps the money that you pay for Perot Shvi'it now contains the Kedusha of Shvi'it is transferred onto the money. Now you have to deal with the money as you would have dealt with the Perot Shvi'it themselves. And if the guy puts it in his, in his pillow, and he wants to use it after Shat HaBiur, then you got serious problems. So therefore, we give Amaretz only Mazon Shalosh Seudot, only a little small amount, and one etrog is already more expensive than Mazon Shalosh Seudot, so we cannot do that. That was the gist of the Gemara. The Gemara says, wait a second. If I can't pay for an etrog, why can't I pay for a lulav? What's the difference? And the Gemara said the difference is because etrog and lulav are judged differently when it comes to Kedushat Shvi'it. Whereas all of the fruits normally are judged after the time of Der Chanata, the Etrog is judged after the time of Lekita. You go after the time that you pick the fruit, not the time that they start growing. So therefore, we're talking about fruits that Lulav, Hadas Arava, and Etrog that they started growing in the 6th year and they're picked on the 7th. So therefore, by the other three, they don't have Kedushat Shvi'it. By Etrog, it does because when you picked it was Shvi'it, you go after that. That's where we kind of like left off the Gemara. And now, the Gemara is going to say, Tama de lulav b'shishit hanichneset l'shvi'it. This is indicating, this very thing that we just mentioned, indicates that if you had the lulav that would start growing on the 7th year, it would be kadosh. It's exactly what we just said, right? The reason is because it started on shishit on the 6th year, and then you picked it on the 7th. That's why it doesn't have kedushat shvi'it, right? That infers that had it grown entirely in Shnat HaShemitah, or started growing in Shnat HaShemitah, and the majority of it was in the 7th year, then it would be Kadosh. Says the Gemara, seriously? Hadeshvit Kadosh? Amai? Why would it be Kadosh altogether? Etzim ba'almahu. This is wood. Wood does not take Kedushat Shvi'it altogether. Not every wood is Asur that grew on Shvi'it. Only the fruits are Asur. Now, we're going to be discussing now, today, the reason why only fruits would be Asur and not wood, and as that applies to our sugya of the Kedusha of Lulav. So, let's see what the Gemara says. The Tanya, we learned them right now. Ale kanim v'ale gefanim shkvava lechovam. If you gathered leaves of wine or leaves of kanim, of reeds, shkvava lechova, that you gathered it, al pnei asadeh, you wanted to store them away, lekatan la'achila yesh b'hem mishum kedusha. If you gather them for eating purposes, then it has kedushat shvit. But lekatan le'etzim, if you're doing it for fuel, as wood, and by mishum kedushat shvit, then they don't have kedushat shvit altogether. So here you see, the Gemara says from this Braita, that something that is meant for fuel does not have kedushat shvit at all. Now, what's the difference, by the way? Says the Gemara, Shani hatam, that's different. The Amar Kra, because the pasuk says lachem leochla. The full pasuk is when speaking about Shavuot, ve'ayta Shabbat haaretz lachem leochla. The Shabbat haaretz, the 7th year, Shnat Shemitah, should be for you to eat. That's basically the main pasuk that talks about Shavuot, that on the 7th year, you're not working the land, you're not planting, you're not harvesting, you're not plowing, none of those things. The whole land is open, people will eat. Right? You can eat, it's not asur to eat it, but you cannot do any of the agricultural processes of the land. And says the Gemara, why does it say lachem leochla? Just say, can I rewrite the pasuk here? We would say like this: V'ayta Shabbat haaretz. Instead of saying lachem leochla, just say Shabbat haaretz leochla. Lecha. You say anyways lecha afterwards, right? Afterwards, the pasuk itself indicates who we're talking about. It says V'ayta Shabbat haaretz. I'm skipping lachem leochla lecha v'lavdecha amatecha. It says all the people who are going to be eating it. You, right? Your servants, your maidservants, the gerim, everyone could eat it. So why do you have to say lachem for you guys? That word lachem seems to be superfluous and redundant. So say why do you say it bichlal? So says the Gemara, lachem leochla, lachem dum yadachila. You could use it just like you would eat it. It's, in other words, it's not that the pasuk is only telling you that you could eat it, but you can't do anything else. No, you could. You could, but it's anything that is like achila, like eating. What is that? When you eat something, the benefit you derive from it is immediate. You enjoy eating it, right? It sustains you. The hana'ah, the pleasure and the benefit that you have from something that you eat is driven immediately. It's not that I eat it and then in 2 hours it works. It works right now. It's, it's pleasureful, it's geschmack, it's hana'ah. When you burn something, when you use something as fuel, how does it work? You burn it, and only after it's burned, when the thing turns into energy, right? In Newtonian physics, right? It will be a chronological order. It first burns, and then you have heat. So it's never together simultaneously, and therefore, that is excluded from Kedushat Shvit. Anything whose hana'ah is not simultaneously with its usage, with its consumption, it is excluded from Kedushat Shvit. Therefore, anything that you benefit from it as you are using it, like achila, like eating, that has kedushat shvit, aka fruits, eating purposes, right? Anything that's food. And by anything that its hana'ah comes after its consumption, like fuel, does not have kedushat shvit. Where do we learn that? Lachem leochla. It says lachem leochla to teach you that anything that is its hana'ah is like achila, is kadosh b'kedushat shvi'it. Anything that's not, it is excluded from the holiness of fruits of shvi'it. So says the Gemara, yatzu etzim, it excludes wood, fuel, shehanatan achar biuran, that the benefit you derive from them is only after biur, after they have been consumed, quote unquote, right? Says the Gemara, wait a second. Back before Thomas Edison, before you flipped the switch and you had light, people used certain types of wood for electricity, for light. And that, for sure, is benefiting you at the time of consumption, right? It's not heat, it's light. And light happens as it's being consumed. So what if I am using this wood not for heat, but not for fuel, but for light? That's etzim de mashchan. These are wood that naturally they had a lot of oil in them. And therefore, you could light them up, so to speak, and they would be flaming off as in a clear flame because of the oil content as they would be consumed. So that is, for sure, at the same time, simultaneously. So that should be, says the Gemara Kadosh. And Rava answers, Amar Rava, stam etzim la'asakayin. When we talk about etzim, we talk about stam etzim. Regular, when we say wood, we're talking about fuel. And fuel, it does not have that kedusha because the hana'ah versus the consumption is in a chronological order. So says the Gemara, ve'etzim la'asaka tanai. Let's discuss this actually, because Gemara believes that this is machloket tanaim. The wood that you use for fuel, even. It's machloket tanaim. Not everybody agrees that the wood that you use for fuel does not have kedushat shvi'it. There are those who say even the wood that is used for consumption of fire and heat is going to be still kadosh b'kedushat shvi'it. The Tanya, as we learned in the Braita. Ein mosrim perot shvi'it, lo lemishra velo lichbusa. You cannot give fruits of shvi'it to an amaretz, lo lemishra velo lichbusa. You can't give it not for, let's say, wine was used back in the day, not just for drinking. Sometimes it was used lemishra. They would soak flax in it for processing it, and sometimes it would be used lichvusa for washing garments. And now you'll see later on in the Gemara that they had other benefits from it as well. But these are the two that people used it for. Rabbi Yossi Omer, that's Chachamim. Rabbi Yossi says, no problem, Moslin, you could use the fruits of Shvi'it for Mishnah, for soaking flax, and also for Kvusa, for washing garments. Says the Gemara, my Tama de Tanakama. Let's understand why Tanakama holds his Asur, and why Rabbi Yossi holds his Mutar. Both of them are learning it from the Psukim. So my Tama de Tanakama, what's the reasoning behind Tanakama? The Amar Kra, because the Pasuk says le'ochla velo le'mishra. When the Pasuk says the same Pasuk that we just read a minute ago, that says v'haya Shabbat v'hayta Shabbat ha'ares lachem le'ochla. The fruits that you have from the earth, from the land on Shvi'it, has to be for you, for what? Le'ochla, to eat it. So if I say to eat it excludes soaking flax. And to eat it excludes washing garments. When the Torah says, I want you to use this for eating purposes, what does that mean exactly? It means don't do other stuff. What's other stuff? Soaking flax is other stuff. Washing clothes is other stuff. So Chachamim say, well, it's a surprise that you can't use it. That's what he means. He means you can't use it for soaking flax and washing your garments. My Tamadar, so that sounds pretty good. So what does Rabbi Yossi hold over here? That it says you could do it. My Tamadar Rabbi Yossi, the Pasuk says the same Pasuk. This is awesome, right? It says Rabbi Yossi says what? He says lachem. V'ayta shabbat haaretz lachem. Pause right there. Why do you have to say lachem? Why do you have to say for you guys? Hare, 2 words later you say lecha lavdecha lamatecha legercha toshavcha. Why do you have to say lachem? Says Rabbi Yossi, lachem, it is for you. You do with it whatever you want. That's what lachem means. Pause right there. V'ayta shabbat haaretz lachem. It is yours. Just like what you do with what belongs to you is whatever you want. Here also you could do with it whatever you want. If you would pause the Gemara right over here, what would you do? Right? Both of them have a very good point. Chachamim say, well, I can't pause right there. It's lachem le'ochla. It has to be for eating. And Rabbi Yossi says, well, if it's for eating, just say lo ochla. Why lachem? So is it for everything, or is it for very specific, just eating purposes, right? Both of them have very good points. And the Gemara says, now, let's see what the Gemara does with it. Rabbi Yossi says, lachem, it's yours. Lechol tzorkechem, for all your needs. Ve'afilu lemishnah, even for soaking flax, washing your clothing, all of that is mutar. Now the Gemara contrasts these two together. So Chachamim saying good, but what do they do with Rabbi Yossi? And at the end of the day, it says lachem, it's for you. You can do whatever you want. What do they do with it? Tarakama haktiv lachem. Where it says hahu lachem dumya de achila. It's coming to tell you lachem. That's not only for eating. It's for any usage that is like eating, which means the consumption and the hana'ah you derive from it is simultaneous, right? But burning for fuel is not simultaneous. It's not like you have to first burn it and then it creates heat. So says the Gemara, Misha hana'ato u'piuro shaveh, yatzeu mishra ve'kvusa shehana'atan achar biuran. When you soak flax, right, you ruined the wine already, you used it, but the hana'ah does not come until later. Just like burning fuel is. And same is with washing clothing. The hana'ah and biur is not shaveh, it's not the same time, it's not simultaneous. Says the Gemara, but Rabbi Yossi haktiv le'ochla, Rabbi Yossi also has to deal with Chachamim. Chachamim are saying pretty good, right? It says, look, why do you have to say le'ochla? Why? Just say, if you want to say you could use it for whatever, which is the Shita of Rabbi Yossi, right? Rabbi Yossi says you could use it for Mishra, Kivusa, for all of that. So why in the world does the Pasuk say, this should be for you for eating? Why do you have to say for eating? That's a very powerful question. It's like $1 million question. It says the Gemara, it says, don't think that Rabbi Yossi has no exclusions. He also has his limits. Even Rabbi Yossi that says you can use it for everything, it's almost everything, not mamash everything. There are things that are excluded. What? For instance, things for refuah. You can't use perot shvi'it as medication. That you cannot do. Where does Rabbi Yossi see that? In the same diuk that Chachamim use. Chachamim say lo'ochla. Rabbi Yossi says, you know, lo'ochla is coming to tell you lo'ochla, but not limlugma, not for refuah, not for medication usage. Kedatanya. Now we have to really. Now we got a problem, because how can you say it's for everything but not for this? Who told you could decide between soaking flax, washing clothing, and medication? He says this yes, this one no. I understand Chachamim. Chachamim say, and it's a rule. Anything that's simultaneous, yes. Anything that's not simultaneous, no. I'm not deciding between different things. It's a formula. Rabbi Yossi seems to not have a formula. Says, soaking flax, chazaku baruch. Washing clothing, chazaku baruch. Medication, no. I got something against the pharmaceuticals. Like, what exactly is the reason? Says the Gemara, Kedatanya, as we have, the ochlav lo limlugma. You could eat it, but you can't use it for medication. Are you going to learn like this, that you could do it any usage but medication? Or maybe we should say velo lichvusa. Maybe you can wash your clothing with it. How do you know what to include and what to exclude? So says the Gemara, listen well. The last 3 lines of the Gemara over here. Says the Gemara, look, Rabbi Yossi has got a problem over here. It says, when you look at this pasuk, the pasuk is very confusing. Because first it says lachem, which means any use that you have. It's yours, you can do whatever you want. That's the indication of the word lachem. V'ayta Shabbat ha'ares, the Shnat HaShemitah, the 7th year, is for you, you can do whatever you want. That's the first indication. When you tell me the word lachem, it's for you, what I take out of that is anything I want. But then you add le'ochla, which is a clear exclusion. You're clearly telling me, the pasuk is clearly telling me that I'm excluding something. So you first use a very inclusive word, and then you exclude something, le'ochla, only for eating. But I know it's not only for eating because you told me lachem. So the pasuk is telling me to include something and to exclude something at the same time. Now, how do I know what to include and what to exclude? Says the Gemara. This is where the secret of Rabbi Yossi lies. Says the Gemara. Hamani mekayem leochla. So what is leochla, which is a very specific language, is coming to exclude something. What is that teaching me? Leochla velo limlugma is coming to teach me that we exclude medications. Maraita, says the Gemara, the $1 million question. What tells you what to include and what to exclude? Maraita, what did you see in medication that is worse than soaking flax, than washing your clothing? What's worse in that over soaking flax? Maraita lerabot et hakvusa uleotzi et hamelugma. Why do you differentiate between laundry and medication? Why is laundry any better than medication? This is a very simple, logical, sensible differentiation. Says Rabbi Yossi, for a very simple reason. Because when the Torah says lachem, it means for the normal usage of human beings. You could use perot shvi'it for any normal usage, not just for achila. I disagree, says Rabbi Yossi, with Chachamim, who say only for things that the Hana'ah is simultaneous. I think you could do it for anything that's a fuel, Chazak Baruch. Washing your clothing, good. You want to use it for soaking flax, good. Anything that's considered normal usage of human beings for the totality of the society, you could use. That is what I learned from Lachem. It's yours. You can use it. So what's it coming to exclude? It says le'ochla. Le'ochla says things that are normal, like achila, for everyone needs to eat. Everyone needs to wash clothing. But not everyone needs medication. That's a very specific need. It's not for everyone. Those things we exclude. The Torah is giving you permission to use it for any normal usage of regular human beings, things that everybody needs. Things that everybody needs is eating, is fuel, is washing clothing, and all those are needed for everyone. But medication is very specific use. That you cannot use the perot shvi'it for. So says the Gemara, who is the Tana of our Braita that says le'ochla velo limlugma, that you could eat it but you cannot use it for medication? Le'ochla velo leziluf. It's not just medication that's not for everyone. They used to also use wine. It comes as a surprise for people, right? They used to use wine has an aroma to it, so people used to use it as spraying their house with wine around the house, and you come in, it has like the nice aroma of wine, right? Well, some people do relate to it nowadays, some people don't relate to it nowadays, but that's something that they used it for. They would sprinkle their house around with wine to have a good smell. Can I do that with wine of Shvi'it? Says the Braita, absolutely not. Just like you can't use it for medicine, you can't use it for spraying and for smell purposes. La'achila velo leziluf. La'achila velo la'asot mimena afiktovizin. What's afiktovizin? Right? Afiktovizin, it's a notarikun, Rashi says elsewhere. They used to have some also considered some sort of medication. They had this drink that they would make out of different items that you would eat in order to throw up. If a person had this, actually started from the Romans and Greeks, that they wanted to have a lot of pleasure without gaining weight, because the Greeks, and then followed by the Romans, they were the first ones who came up with this whole bodybuilding thing and so on and so forth. Like they had like the half-naked statues of human beings. They glorified the body. Like you find their Chachamim debating with us Brit Milah. They felt that the goof of of a person, the body of a person is the perfect, and the center of creation or existence is human being and human body. It's perfect, right? The glorified human body. And therefore they want it to be in shape, right? That's one of the reasons that we eat all the oily stuff on Hanukkah. We want to make sure to not be fit to go. That's a joke, right? Yeah, but that says the Gemara. That says the Gemara is afiktovizin. They would eat, and they would have this afiktovizin to throw up, right? In order to be able to eat more afterwards without having any problems. They had special rooms to go do this, actually. So can you use the perot shvi'it to create afiktovizin, to create this drink that you would have to be able to vomit? You know, says the Gemara, you cannot use it. So you can't use it for anything that's not a normal need for normal people. Naming, you can't use it for medication. You can't use it for sprinkling that. That's only for fancy people that they wanted to have this aroma of wine everywhere in their house. You can't use it. Afiktovizin, you can't use. Anything that's not a normal need for normal human beings, normal citizens, you cannot use. Come on, Rabbi Yossi. Says the Gemara, De'ira banan, this is only according to Rabbi Yossi, this Braita, because Rabbi Yossi is the one that allows other usages, naming, fuel and all the other things that you could use for the washing clothing and soaking flax. Rabbi Yossi is the one that allows all of these things. If it would be chachamim, ha'ikanami mishra v'chabusa, it would also be asur to wash your garments. It would also be asur to soak your flax. So therefore it is Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi, now we have a clarity. Chachamim hold you can only use perot shvi'it for eating and anything that's equivalent of eating. That the hana'ah comes immediately together with the consumption. Fuel, it's not good. Right? Washing clothing, not good. Soaking flax, not good. That's chachamim. Rabbi Yossi says, no, why not? The Torah is giving it to you for anything that's a normal use. So what is le'ochla coming to exclude? It's going to exclude things that are recreational. Afiktovizin is recreational, right? Sprinkling your house with the things is recreational. Medication is not for everybody. It's only for sickness. It's kind of like, it's not, shaveh l'chol nefesh. So therefore, those are excluded. Everything else is included. Says the Gemara. Let's start the next topic over here. Amar Rabbi Elazar, says the Gemara, En shvi'it mitchalelet el derech mekach. Let me give it a little preface, and then maybe we'll start this in the next shiur. When you have hekdesh, right, the way you do hilul, the way you transfer kedusha of hekdesh, is not by only buying. Right? Yeah, if you go to the gizbar, if you go to the gabai of the Beit HaMikdash that has the donations, people would donate different things, right, to the Beit HaMikdash. Go donate a piece of gold, an album, or whatever it is, right, that has monetary value. So what would the gizbar do with it? The gabai of the Beit HaMikdash would sell that, and the money equivalent of it would become now kadosh, and that would go lechulin. If someone has a diamond ring that donated to the Beit HaMikdash, now when the gizbar sells it to Reuben could use it. It's no longer hekdesh. Where did the kedusha go? The kedusha is transferred on the money. So you could do it with money, but you could also do it just, you have the hekdesh, you have the thing, you say, the kedusha of this should go on this. Right? It's not just derech mekach, it's not just through sales, it's not just through selling it and transfer of ownership, but it could be also that you're the owner, and you say, this kedusha should go on this, right? Chilul, put it here as zeu, right? And use the item that used to be kadosh before. You could do that too. Now, the Gemara wants to suggest here that perhaps with perot shvi'it, there are those who hold that you could only do that through sales. You can't just hold your perot shvi'it and hold some money there and say the kedusha of this should go on this. Hilul, and now I'm going to eat this. Maybe that doesn't work. Maybe you have to actually sell it to somebody, and that transfer of ownership, makes it that now the kedusha is transferred on the money you received. But you can't do it at home. Say, this fruit should go on that fruit or on that money. That chilul in that way maybe doesn't work. We'll see in the Gemara why and if that is true. Be'ezrat Hashem in the next year. Hazak u'baruch.